Hey guys, Seán here from another episode of the Any Given Runday podcast. And
Hey, hey.
okay, Eric, I get the. And in fairness to you this time, I understand why you're interrupting because when we do the interview, I do a terrible job introducing our guest this week. So, Eric, how about you just take over and tell the people? I wasn't the best. I was put in the spot. We went straight into it. We've got a great interview lined up. Apart from my intro, what do we have today?
You got nervous. You were meeting someone new. You got nervous. It was okay. This week, Seán, we've got someone brilliant. We've got Reuben Whelan. Reuben has been with the Run Club. He's been posting. He's been liking. He's been sharing. He's been sharing his story as well, and has really, really embraced what we're about. And it's just getting people involved in fitness, getting people out and about. And we were extra inspired by him this week because he took on a marathon through the mountains. Him and a buddy got in a car or a taxi, got dropped off, ran 42 kilometers through the mountains, and then they were back in bed by 9 o'clock that morning, at 4:30 in the morning. I'd only be coming home from a party at 4:30 in the morning, so never mind going on the marathon. So, but yeah, it was absolutely inspirational. He's a great guy to have involved. It's something that we actually really enjoyed recording. It was brilliant. It's something we started as we don't know what. We're just going to run a marathon and record it and document it, and now we're actually getting people involved like Reuben, and it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, no, it really is class. And the great thing, like, this is the first time we ever met Reuben, like over Zoom. The very first time we talked face to face, and just hearing his story and hearing a lot of parallels actually, because long time listeners of the podcast, well, 6 months we've been doing this, will notice a lot. But they'll notice how, like, he talks about his first marathon and how he'd underprepared for that, and me and you, Eric, totally underprepared for our marathon, and then how he goes on talking about triathlons and stuff. And through this, there's two key takeaways I want people just to listen out for. It's the community, getting involved with other people who have like-minded goals. They're able to push yourself a little bit further, and a lot of this is obviously the fitness battle, but a lot of it is just mental as well, to keep pushing yourself on days you don't want to be pushed. And stay away from Roundwood. You'll find out why in that later in the podcast.
Yeah, and I've also got signed up for another challenge. I don't know how I keep doing it, but it happens. Every time I talk to someone, I give them a promise. And yeah, so I've got Rachel Farrell. You'll hear Reuben has set me a challenge. I think Ozzy Doyle wants me to do an ultra marathon with him. So yeah, the challenges are starting to stack up now. So next year, Seán, 2021, I think you're going to get the Lawless Files documentary of how far can you go. But look, we'll see what happens. I think the best thing is just everyone let's let people listen to Reuben Whelan in the next upcoming podcast. What do you think?
Yeah, that's it. We're just going to go straight into the podcast. Myself and yourself, Eric, are going to shut the hell up to the delight of everyone listening. This is our interview this week, guys. Enjoy. Okay, so we're right back with the podcast. You heard in the intro there, joined by Eric, and we weren't too sure exactly what we were going to do this week with the podcast. Eric's been bringing on different guests each week, and I was sitting.
I have no more friends, Seán.
You ran out of friends at 3. You ran out of friends, but thank you very much. And one of your friends tortures us on the Thursday session with the yoga. We'll get back to that later. So I was sitting there I think it was at the end of an interval run of 3.5K I did in my intervals. And that was it. And Eric texted me, goes...
Big day for you, Seán.
It was a big day for Paris when I did it. And Eric goes, check the Run Club now. And I checked it. And someone in the Run Club had decided to run just a random Saturday. Just decided it was bad weather, and I was even under the weather going, will I do intervals at 1K up and down? This guy went up to the mountains and did a full marathon, faster than 2 out of my 3 marathons, which is saying a lot as well because they were flat in comparison, and we have him on the podcast now. So, Reuben, welcome to the Any Given Runday podcast, and what the hell were you thinking yesterday?
It was an interesting day. It's been probably planned for a good long while, so the weather could have been better, as I was saying, but it was kind of stuck in the diary at that point, and I didn't want to give up on it. Myself and a friend headed up, and we went at it for a couple of hours, all right, over the Dublin Mountain Way. Started off in Tala and over to Shankill. It was a great day.
How did that come to mind? Like,
it's a Saturday, it's my rest day, and because the weather was so crap, it was the first time in about 10 weeks I was like, I actually don't want to go outside. Shut up, the weather. I didn't even feel bad for the first time in 8 weeks.
Yeah. So I'd been reading, it was actually a good while ago, probably some point time in 2019, that there was actually a trail over, I think the three ones are Hellfire Club, Ticknock, and then Carrickgulgan or something like that. And I'd seen people talking about walking the whole way, and then one or two kind of out there comments going, oh, you could run it too. And then the last couple of weeks, obviously people kind of don't have things to work towards, don't have races. And I'd seen one or two lads going up on Strava, actually, and just having to go at parts of it. And it was kind of in the back of my mind for a long old while. And I've been thinking, it'd be a great thing to do is head up there and just, I love the kind of thought of just going from A to B by yourself. I think it's a cool thing to achieve, however long the distance. So I said, grand, all the races are scrapped. I've nothing else to be working towards. And if I need to take a couple of days off afterwards, not a bad thing. So I roped a friend in at the last minute. God love him, he signed up with a week's notice. And we said we'd head out early just to kind of avoid any people out walking and kind of try keep as well isolated as we could during these times. So we got taxi over to Tala. It picked us up at about 4:30. Jumped out of the car at about 5. Set off the Garmin watch and just kind of went for the hills. So yeah, it was a great day. I have to say, went through different moments during it. There was definitely highs and lows. The weather at the kind of peaks was definitely tough in that you're kind of almost in a cloud, and it's not raining, but you're just wet. Fairly exposed. So I was glad for the company. It definitely made a big difference. I was originally planning on going myself, and I definitely probably would have sat down and had a cry at some point if it was just myself.
When you were sitting in that taxi, were you like, oh, what am I doing? Were you getting the nerves, like, that pre-race kind of nerves, even though there's no pressure, you're just going for a cruise through the mountains? But was there any point you were like, I think this is a bad idea?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. There's no party that says, oh, this is what you should be doing, and this is a great idea. Like, I had loads of notions of like, what if you sprain an ankle, or like what if you need to go to the toilet, or like you bonk or something like this. And I actually had those feelings probably most of the week leading up to it, which is kind of what I wanted, was to feel a little bit of that kind of, that nervous excitement. And to be honest, in the taxi, I didn't have to worry about going, what am I doing? Because your man who was driving the taxi was actually asking me that himself. So
I love that, like, when people sign up to races and marathons and half marathons, they pay their €30 and stuff, and they get their, their technical tea, and they get their medal, the whole lot. You gave your €30 to a taxi man to pick you up at 4:30 in the morning to take you up to this. Obviously, that's
and all you got was abuse.
I mean, obviously that's something that came out of a long time. It's not something where you do a couple of races and go, you know what, I'm gonna get up at 4:30 in the morning and go on this trek, this 4-hour trek through the mountains. What started all that? How did you get into running and get a love for running? Because you have to have some sort of love for running to get up at that time in the morning to do a trail like that without the whole Instagram, the medal and stuff at the end. Yeah. A lot of people do runs for.
And yeah, I think I can definitely relate to a lot of the, doing this for a reason or for an achievement, particularly in terms of like saying, I've done this or that. And it's probably only in the last little while that I've become probably more motivated by just internal achievement versus, I suppose, external validation. And I can probably relate to most people kind of going, oh, I've done this just to say, tick it off a bucket list, for example. And like, for me, even if I take it back to when I was a good bit younger, I was probably always really sporty, even in school. There's not many sports I haven't played really. And it was probably mostly team-based at the time. Grew up in Cork, so I played hurling, football, rugby. Even when I was in the city, there was an American football team. So like, you played with Cork and at one point in time, yeah.
They whooped us before, but anyway.
This is when we didn't even have proper training grounds. Like, we were playing in the local park. So I kind of just threw my hand at almost everything. And this is before I kind of materially got into running. I was much more kind of into team-based sports. And it was back in 2010, in my final year of school. I actually had a bad leg break. I was playing a game of rugby, and a strong out half came charging across the pitch and decided to snap my leg in half, and the bone actually came out.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh,
Yeah,
Jesus
it was
Christ. I'm not one of these stories.
We went from rolling ankles to a bone break in a matter of minutes. My God.
Somebody get Danny here, quick.
I always remember one of the lads who came up to visit me in hospital afterwards, because I'd gone a fair distance to the pitch, and obviously the whole team doesn't necessarily follow you. And so when I went down, I was close enough to the try line, and I went down screaming. And your man who was back towards our half, he turns to one of the lads and goes, "Jesus, it wasn't that great to try," thinking I was celebrating.
It was a war cry.
Yeah, but it was after that, I obviously had challenges kind of getting back involved in sport, and it being taken away. You look to the positives that you can in terms of, I was in final year in school, so like studying was a positive, but there was definitely huge parts of my life taken away that I became really motivated to kind of take back control of. So like getting back to rugby was one of them at the time, and then that was 2010. I probably wasn't running for about somewhere between 6 and 8 months properly afterwards, because I metal down the hollow of my leg now and all that good stuff. So it was slow but sure kind of recovery. And when was it? It was I moved into college, moved up to Dublin in Cork, and it was 2012. My cousin who I was living with, had run a marathon the year before, and was going for it again. And I was kind of getting back into the state where, geez, I could actually maybe start thinking about these things. But hadn't done one before, but all of a sudden it was no, I have something to prove to myself. If I can run a marathon, having done this, nothing stopping me doing whatever I want. And so it became a big thing to me, to just prove that this hadn't taken anything away from me, and my life was going to go on as normal. And then there's all the good stuff about, raising money for charity, and just for the sake of it, achieving a marathon and being able to tell people that you've done that. So I did that back in 2012. It was probably like very different to what, I'd say most people who are starting out running these days would be like, because you don't have like the wealth of information that's out there now. You're almost overloaded with information these days, but back then it was kind of, how do you train for a marathon? You have to probably buy a book or something like that. And so I went into that whole process, probably not knowledgeable on it, not knowing many people. My cousin had run it the year before, so I kind of basically said, I'll just do what he does, and sure, that'll get me there. And the mistake I made in that was that you don't necessarily have the same motivation to run your second marathon as you do for the first. So Dublin Marathon's in October, we signed up in June, and I think by September he was kind of thinking, I'm not really sure if I want to do this again.
Oh,
running when
you remembered the pain.
Exactly. So I was kind of sticking closely enough to his training schedule, thinking if I'm just doing what he's doing, I'm going to get through it. And yeah, around September he goes, yeah, I'm not doing it. And I was like, oh God, I'm in this by myself now, and have I done enough? I managed to convince myself that I had, and this is all based around like taking out Google Maps and like drawing lines on it to see how far I'm running, because like GPS watches were barely a thing back then. Yeah. And like longest run I'd say before it was, I guess now probably like 15 to 16k, when I thought it was probably like somewhere between 20 and 30. So I think fair to say I went into it relatively underprepared, and I suppose what transpired on the day certainly reflects that. I remember, it's, for those who run Dublin Marathon, it's the hill up to Clonskee on the back of UPD. It's a brute, and no offense to those that overtook me, but like just judging the shape and size of them, I was looking at them going, you shouldn't be overtaking me, I've done something wrong if you are.
We had that exact same feeling.
Yeah.
My dad wouldn't let it go. A pregnant woman finished the Dublin Marathon ahead of me and Seán the first time we did it.
I still got annoyed you bring that up.
Like, and in fairness now, like, she's a phenomenal athlete, but optics of two young, relatively fit personal trainer, just finished army training, and now we're getting absolutely smoked, like you said. So, no, absolutely, totally agree with you there. It's frustrating. It is frustrating.
It is, yeah. And like, it was certainly a learning lesson for me. So I got over the line. I was delighted with myself that I had to walk parts of it. I did. I think it was that hill up to Clonskeagh. I think it was around the 18th mile, and I walked it. I just couldn't not. And that was something I kind of nearly broke a promise to myself. My promise was to try beat my cousin's time from the previous year, which I just missed, but stuck under 4.5. And the second promise was don't walk any part of it. I just couldn't. I just physically wasn't able to. And so came away from that whole experience. I have to say, quite honestly, with it, a dislike for running. I hated the marathon. Anyone who asked me for the preceding or for the following 2 years, should you run a marathon? I said definitively not unless you want to endure physical pain like you've never experienced before. And probably the one useful bit of advice I gave anyone was just make sure you train more than I did, which was basically sweet F all, and achieved my goals, but just didn't have what I really wanted from it. I think I went out for a run maybe 2 weeks later, and after that just didn't run at all. It was kind of a case of I've achieved this, what am I going to do next? And so kind of fell away from running for a good while, finished out college, got my first job, and went through probably a serious period of putting on a good bit of weight. My priorities.
I've been there.
Yeah.
It's very parallel to Eric right about now.
Me and you just became best friends, Reuben.
Yeah, like just going from, I probably doing a bit of gym work, but going from college life to a desk job is a big adjustment. And I think certainly didn't realize, your metabolism slows down, and you can't eat what you want anymore. Having a curry for lunch every day just doesn't exactly work. So it was a good, and to be honest, it was a good while before any of that changed. Like my priorities and a big part of my identity probably got caught up in, I am what my job title is probably for the first 2 years coming out of college. And that's all well and good. That's what I wanted to do. But it wasn't until I actually changed jobs back into 2017 that I really saw that there could be more to someone than just what they do in terms of work. So yeah, I changed jobs for a variety of reasons, but the firm I came into just had a very different attitude towards, I suppose, having a balanced life and being more than just the person behind the computer. Like 90% of my work would be on Excel and all that good stuff. So like it's hard to get out, and like you'd be working late hours, but this place had a really healthy attitude towards it. There was 3 or 4 lads in there who'd done marathons, who'd done ultra marathons, who'd done, Ironman, and all this kind of stuff. And it was the first time since I'd come out of college that people were kind of going, oh yeah, what are you doing on the weekend? Are you going for a cycle, or, are you going for a run? Or, people at lunch would be doing, workout classes and that good stuff. And that really, for me, was actually an important point in my life at that point, so that people were challenging me to kind of be more than just, desk analyst or whatever it was. And there was a lot of emphasis placed on, having a balanced or healthy lifestyle, because their belief was that, if you're looking after yourself from a physical and health perspective, you're probably better at your job as well. And I think that's something that definitely resonates with me to this day. So yeah, I put on...
It is amazing the people you surround yourself with, the like-minded people, the run club, people who are involved in fitness. It's infectious. It genuinely is. And I suppose from listening to you say that, it's kind of time with me and Seán, because that's the whole idea of any given run day. We're not experts, and like you said, 2012, if we were doing this, we would have been considered experts on running marathons. But it's definitely the people you surround, and that's the whole goal of this and the run club, is for the likes of you 4 years ago to listen to people and go, well, I'm not getting that out in work. I'm not getting surrounded by people, but at least the people are listening to us or looking at our posts. Somewhere along the way, they might go, actually, here's a challenge, I might give it a go, or I might start 5K, or I might do this. And it's brilliant that, like, obviously in my work, it's very fitness orientated. Seán's work is very fitness orientated because he is a fitness orientated person. But it's great to hear that even in office life as well, when you get in a job that promotes that kind of healthy lifestyle as well, that you're just challenged by other people who are saying, like, why aren't you running? Like, have you not caught on to this secret that we have? Like,
yeah, no, absolutely. And like, one of the big moments, I think, like, when I got in there first, I just tried to prove myself for a little while, and then the kind of next part of it came in that people were kind of going, oh, what are you doing your weekends, and do you want to do this this race we're thinking of signing up for, etc., etc. And at first I was kind of was a bit hesitant. You know, I think it's fair to say, like when you've lads sit next to you that run ultra marathons, you know, it's very natural to kind of be like, I don't think I can run 5K anymore. So like, you try not to, but you inevitably end up benchmarking yourself against these types of people. And it's very intimidating. It's something even to this day I do, and you're kind of like, Jesus, look at what they're doing. And there's always someone who's bigger, badder, and better than you at something. So it's hard to get away from it. But to be fair, there's a couple of lads in there that were great at just kind of going, sure, just go out for a run. We just go out for, 3K around the block. And, looking back at what we were doing then, I'd kind of go, Jesus, that was slow. But they weren't saying that to me at the time. They were just delighted to get out and do a bit of running. It wasn't focused on anything in particular. It was just kind of a bit of camaraderie and, enjoying the run more than anything. And then slowly but surely you kind of get a bit more entwined in it, and you start getting a better sense of things and what pace you're doing, how long you're going for, et cetera, that you kind of start to focus on your own goals and on what you want to do. So yeah, that was back in 2017. And then across 2018, I started running a lot more. I went probably from running once a week to maybe running twice a week, trying to do 30 minutes, maybe try to do 40 minutes, and just kind of pick out different goals. And it could be simple things like I want to run from this start station to this start station, or from this place to that. And just I love the kind of sense of achievement of doing something by yourself. So it was stuff like that was pretty simple at the start. And then one of the things actually, Eric, you said during the run club in the week actually really resonated with me back then, which was, you'd have a really kind of stressed day or busy mind, and nothing like a run would just completely clear that for you. And that really, really related to me, particularly back then, because what I'd noticed, I don't have great posture generally. I'd sit quite slouched, and I was starting to get really bad back pain. The work I tend to do is long hours and can be quite stressful at times. And I was noticing just my mood was deteriorating. I'd still had a good attitude, but I could be quite snappy. And it's quite collaborative what I do. So, it wasn't fair on other people that I was working with that they'd come up and ask me a question and I'd nearly snap back at them. And that was my issue, as opposed to anything anyone else was doing. And I'd notice, I'd go for a run at lunch or in the evening, and the next day I'd be completely fine. My back wouldn't be sore. I'd be in a much better mood. And I was just, it probably took a couple of weeks before I actually thought it's related to the running. And then I was like, no, it's definitely, my back is a lot looser. I'm just a happier person. And I definitely kind of really relate to what people say when, exercise is good for mental health. That took off massively for me, and it's a big thing at the moment. So it's not hard to find out about it and read a good bit more. So it was off the back of that then that a few of the guys were running Dublin Marathon that year, and I started to think about different events. I actually live out, you probably see from the runs in the run club, I live out near Dún Laoghaire. So one of the big events each year down here is the Dún Laoghaire Half Ironman. And it was 2018 at this point. I think we'd been out the night before, myself and my girlfriend, and we just woke up in a little bit of a hangover, kind of said, go out and grab a coffee. I happened to stroll down. I'd forgotten it was actually on. And there's a few kids down the end, like just absolute furore and great environment. And the two of us with a bit kind of fuzzy head, kind of strolling down going, oh, Jesus.
Feeling guilty.
Yeah, exactly. And it was pure coincidence. And it was one of these things you hear about and you go, there's no way that possibly happened. But kind of rock up to the finish line, and literally 5 seconds of coming up to the finish line, your man who wins the thing literally comes running down the chute. And I'm like, that's bizarrely coincidental timing.
It's a sign.
Yeah, exactly. And it probably shows my attitude towards these things, in that the girlfriend was looking at it all just going, why are people mental enough to put themselves through this, and not only put themselves through it but to pay for it. And at the same time I was thinking, Jesus, I can't wait to do this. I have to do this. It was just such an emotional moment, like seeing your man cross the line, people just so caught up in it, and like something not only he, being a professional athlete, but also all the subsequent finishers had worked so hard towards achieving. It was a really great showcase of, I suppose, what you can do with sport, and how it's not. That's probably why I quite like triathlon as well. Is not just for the elites. It's the same as running in that the elite set off and the amateur set off, and you all finish together wherever you do it or however you do it. So yeah, it was just it's a really kind of standout point for me in that I saw that happen and said, yeah, I have to do this. And so
it's true as well. When we did the marathon, we didn't see it before we did it. We just signed up and said we did it. But my mum, who's 62 years of age now, or 62 or 3, sorry, mum. But she was standing at the finish line watching people, and she got in early, about 11 o'clock, and all she did was watch people cross the finish line. And she was so inspired by watching everyone clapping these people and the smiles on their faces. She was like, I'm going to do a marathon. It's one bit of advice I'm going to say, Daniel. If you ever think you don't want to do a marathon, go to the finish line of a marathon, an Ironman, a triathlon, any of these events, watch the smiles on the faces of people finishing and watch the excitement of people clapping them through. It's one of the best experiences. The final 2K of any race, no matter what the size, is brilliant. And it's just you get such a buzz from it.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It's just inspirational to see. And the thing is, you really realize when you're out there that you see finishing pictures and all this good stuff, and you see books and posts online and all this, and it tends to be these kind of uber fit athletes finishing it. But when you're on the finish line, you just see it's everyone. It's just the people who pass in the street. It's your mom, your dad, your aunt, your uncle, your brother, your sister, and some of them are special and some of them work really hard towards it, and kudos to them. But a lot of these people are just doing it to take off something on a bucket list, and could have been working towards it for years, and it's something they've always promised themselves they'll do, and you really see that come out on the finish line. I couldn't agree with you more. It's brilliant to see and really, really inspirational. So coming off the back of that, I said to myself, I have to do this. I've been running for a good bit at that point. I probably started to lose a bit of weight. I think in total over that year, I probably lost about 3 stone or so. It was a good old drop. And that doesn't say how light I am now. That says how heavy I was at the start more than anything. And it was slowly but surely. And then you kind of, if you look at it each week, you don't notice it, but over the course of a period of time, you definitely do. So I said I'd do that. And probably the biggest fear in my mind at that time was the swim. I grew up down the country in a place called Skull in West Cork, which is on the water. So I was kind of quite familiar with the water. I sailed a lot, windsurfed, surfed, and did a bit of swimming. Nothing competitive, but just jumping in the sea. But it's definitely an intimidation factor when it comes to doing a triathlon. So my first thing was, if I have to wait a year to do this event, I'm going to make this become way too big a thing in my head. So the way the triathlon season works in Ireland is it's only allowed to happen in certain months because of the water temperature. So that was in the end of August, and I basically had until the end of September to do a triathlon or wait till next year. So I basically went onto the website and found the latest triathlon I could do in the next month at the end of September to give myself some chance to train a bit. Got myself a bike, borrowed a bike off a friend from work, and spent about a month training to do just a sprint triathlon, so short enough, but just introduce myself to it and kind of basically make myself feel like this is an achievable thing to do. I'm sure you'll have to do it longer, but don't be put off by anything in particular. So did that at the end of September up in Loud in Pulseport Beach is the triathlon, and just absolutely loved it. Never have felt so welcomed. I went up there by myself. I went up there to do it by myself. My girlfriend came along with me. She's great support on all these days. But was doing it myself, and it was kind of quite lonely going, I've no idea what to expect from this. I don't know anyone who's in this sport. And was blown away by the day. There was a great talk beforehand going, how many of you haven't done one of these before? And you can officially call yourself a triathlete afterwards. And it was really, really nice stuff. And I remember walking away and some lad just stopping me. He'd noticed beforehand. It goes, well done on your first one and welcome to the community. And it was really a case of, no one cared about your time or what you'd done or how far up you'd placed. Everyone was just so supportive of just doing it for the sake of doing it and enjoying it, and it was a really, really enjoyable experience, and just completely reconfirmed everything about why I wanted to do the Dunleary Half Ironman the following year. So with that under the belt, I said, grand, let's kick on. But obviously then you're pretty much a year out from doing it. So I kind of wanted to focus on a few things in between to keep motivation going. Sean, you were asking at the start, how'd you end up running a marathon for yourself? And it's only recently I've done that. Definitely back then I was much more goal orientated and I needed to have events to work towards. So signed up for a half marathon the following March. A couple of the girls I knew go down to Galway and do it each year in Kinvara. And I said, grand, I'll do that. That's something to work towards in these cold winter months. And I'll try to keep up a bit of cycling and swimming in the pool or something in between. So kind of work through the winter doing that. And I tend to have the type of personality that becomes a little bit all or nothing. Like when I was out of sport, as I was saying, I had a good bit of weight. I'd sit on the couch every weekend, just eating whatever, kind of enjoying life and going out a good bit. And then when I started getting into this, it was slowly but surely, but once it kind of clicked, I was like, no, this is it. I'm very focused on this now. And started noticing myself just changing kind of all around my lifestyle really towards these goals. So I didn't stop going out, but I probably cut down the frequency of what I was going out. And as opposed to maybe having like a beer with dinner every day, I might just get a non-alcoholic beer Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and just kind of enjoy the weekend a bit more as a result of that. And slowly but surely it kind of all starts clicking together, and I start reading up on everything and researching everything and getting really focused on this stuff. So the competitive side starts coming out, and one of the girls had run this half marathon the previous year, and I think about 140 something. And then straight away, having never done, I did the Dublin Marathon years ago, but falling out of it and having never done a half marathon before, I said, grand, I have to beat her time. That's just the match. What else can you do? But set a goal and just go for it. And there she's protesting, going, it's not fair, why do you have to pick on me? But it's the way I get myself going. And it's a good thing and it's a bad thing in different circumstances. Like, I'd race you to the door. Kind of pissed off with that, and that's fair enough. But definitely in instances like this, it brings out the best of me. So, yeah, I was hammering away for the winter. Like, getting out and cycling in December and January can be a bleak enough thing. And I was doing
I can't do it. It's the most miserable time of year. I really hate it. I do a lot of indoor cycling because I just can't get out. It's miserable.
Yeah. No, and I've invested in a trainer now for those colds and days.
I'm gonna have to do it myself.
Back then I didn't have it, and I didn't really know anyone in the sport as well. So like I remember probably the highlight of my winter was I think it was January 3rd or something. I'd just come back from Christmas down in Cork, and I said, grand, I'll jump back on the bike and try get back in the swing of things after Christmas. And I was heading up towards Roundwood, trying to do like a good replica of the course, and I was by myself, and I'd probably like 2 or 3 hours in. I hadn't gone that far because I wasn't exactly fit at that point, but I remember just pulling over on the side of the road in the pouring rain, thinking, I'm so far from home. What if I get a puncture? What if anything happens? And I just sat there and cried for about, I'd say 10 minutes. Bleak. Like, why am I doing this to myself? Like no one else is out here doing this. They're all still like probably enjoying their Christmas holidays. And I'm forcing myself through this. So I just turned around, went home, kind of let the tears wash off in the rain, and said, we won't tell anyone about that.
You do a podcast.
But it's that kind of attitude of just getting out and doing it, and at least trying. That's something that's rung true for me, and like slowly but surely you get better at it and you get more comfortable at it, and you've at least tried it before, and it becomes a bit more kind of familiar to you. So it was working through that year towards the Half Ironman, which was the big goal for me that year. Got through training, and then my cousin, who'd actually ran the marathon all the way back in 2011, and I'd been living with, turns out he'd signed up for it too, and the two of us start getting training together, and all of a sudden things get a lot better, because heading out for 4-hour cycles by yourself can be a bleak prospect at the best times. And you do need a bit of, I think, camaraderie. I think if it's someone in person, or if it's like we have in the run group, like there's people I've seen regularly posting it now, and I'm like, fair play to you. And like seeing them get out for their 2-3 runs or 3-4 runs each week kind of keeps me thinking, going, Jesus, why have I any excuse for it if they're getting out and doing it?
And it's 100%. And even us as running the club. Like this morning, I was feeling very sorry for myself, and it was a long run day. But I was seeing everyone else putting in such a big effort. I'm like, who am I to be telling people to get out? I don't follow my own advice. And all these people have already done the run. Reuben's been up in the mountains. I was like, for God's sake. So today I actually was really annoyed with you. So I was in the Phoenix Park, and I usually run kind of with the hill, so I get more of a downhill than the uphill. And I was like, no, not today. So today I went on the harder run. And then I was absolutely goosed for the finish. I had to increase the pace for that final 15 minutes. And because I'd gone up and down the hills in the hard way, I was absolutely wrecked. I was like cursing you for the final. But it just shows, like, when people are encouraging each other, and me and Seán don't even have to comment on everyone's now. People are starting to do it for us. They're starting to really get involved and like each other's stuff and say well done. And that's what we're trying to build. And look what it's done to you now. You're into, you and your cousin, after long cycles, and you're going to do your first half Ironman.
Yeah, no, I can't agree with you more. And like I'd say, when you set it up back at the start of the year, you probably didn't even expect it to go as far as it did, but it's almost taken on a life of itself. As you say, people kind of helping each other out, and it's brilliant to see. It honestly is really inspiring just to see like these people go through what I did back then when I was just getting out on the road for the first time, kind of going for a short run around the block. And like, I suppose the hard thing to realize at the start is that you're not going to get results immediately. Running in that regard is actually quite tough, in that, you know, if someone said to you, if I run consistently for 4 weeks, do you think I'll be good at it at the end of a month or 2 months? And honestly, like, it's probably not. Like, I think it was, realistically for me, it was probably 6 months of just, you know, casually picking it up each week, maybe 2 or 3 times, before I actually felt comfortable doing, you know, a 30-minute run. And
you probably hated running for those 6 months. Everyone hates running. Yeah. It was, you cross that line and no longer hate it, you then need it. It's amazing. And once you get there, so
it was definitely replicating my experience.
Talk to us. How was your half Ironman? This is where I'm getting to now. I want to know how it is.
So yeah, like, went at it, you know, pretty consistently. It was tough to juggle work and training, like, and then also, you know, personal life and family life. But turned up on the morning of it, having done a few more kind of tester triathlons in the build up to it, just to get that kind of race familiarity. It's on the doorstep, so I had a lovely setup. And, you know, there's people flying internationally for these things, getting ferries over from the UK and stuff. And here's me kind of going, I'll just walk out the front door, like literally I'd say about, you know, 500 meters from the front door. So turned up on race day. It was there was obviously changes to it, because we were really unfortunate in that basically about 10 minutes after the pro set off, this fog that I've never seen as low in my life in Dunleary decides to roll in, and visibility goes from, you know, a kilometre to probably like 10 metres. And to be fair to Triathlon Ireland, they're brilliant in that, you know, safety is absolute paramount, and they're not afraid to make dramatic changes to, you know, put people in a safe environment. So unfortunately for us, in the sense that we didn't get to do the full, I suppose, race day equivalent. Our swim was cut from 1.9 kilometres to 1 kilometre on race morning, just for visibility reasons, so that they had to redesign the course. And they did it on the fly. It was very well done. We head off for the swim and go kind of across the bay in Dunleary into the landing area, and you're off on the bike up through the Wicklow Hills, which are tough to say the least. There's a bit of climbing in them as well. You know, it's not a flat one. And that was brutal. But again, someone had made a comment to me during the year that you couldn't do the Ironman course in under 3 hours unless you were a professional cyclist or something like this. The bike part of it is, and it just stuck with me. And I was like, that's not a fair comment to make. And he's like, he doesn't know me. You know, so it just got stuck in my head. And, you know, like, this goes against all the conventional wisdom in that I just absolutely took off on the bike. There was no, you know, you're supposed to do like 30 minutes easy and kind of set your way in, because it's a long cycle, about 90 kilometers, and you've got a half marathon to go at the end of it, so you're supposed to pace yourself. And I said, no, screw that, I'm off here. And like the amount of people I overtook in the first kilometer was just ridiculous because they're all doing what you're supposed to do and just ease your way in. And I'm there like 50 kilometers an hour trying to get people out of my way, flying around like a maniac. And I think it was around Roundwood, where I'd broken down crying the last time, that the cramps started creeping in. And I said, oh Jesus, I'm an hour in to here, 30 kilometers in. This is very early on to be getting cramps. And I'd never ever gotten cramps before in training or anything beforehand. And it was very unfamiliar territory. And I was like, oh Jesus, I've done something wrong here. And like at first they were just kind of like little kind of like pangs of pain, you know, that kind of subside and go away. And then they became to the point where like you'd be sitting down on the bike and I'd literally be thrown out of my seat because my quads would seize up so much. So I was really in unfamiliar territory, but at the same time still had this kind of goal in mind of doing a certain time. And the way the course is you're basically climbing for the first half and then you're descending for the second half. And I said, all right, I have 15 kilometers to go until I can kind of start to take it easy. I'll just try keep at it here. So kept going, managed to get up through the Sally Gap and was heading back down, and looked like I was on for a good time. And slowly but surely kind of getting towards the 3 hours, but the kilometers are falling and I'm starting to realize, Jesus, I might do this in under 3 hours and prove my point. Detriment to the rest of the race. And I remember getting in, I did it in 2 hours and 58 minutes and there was tears in my eyes as I was coming across. Like I had a half marathon to go, but in my head I'd proven everything I needed to at that point. For no reason, again, other than the fact that someone had made a comment and I was like, I'm just going to prove them wrong. And that kept me going. So grand into the tent and set out for the run. And that was brutal. I definitely made a mistake on the bike. I'd done the Kinvara half marathon earlier in the year and I did that in about 1:39 in awful conditions and on a tough course because there is a bit of climbing for the first third of it. And off the back of what I've done in this bike now, I think I did the half marathon at just about the 2 hour mark, and I was struggling. Like my right calf cramped up so badly that each time I was taking a step, because I was probably walking at that point, my foot would actually turn inwards and clip off the other leg. So I was sorry staying up there by the time I was going across the finish line, but I got there in the end, and was delighted with myself for just achieving it. And it was something. It's
absolutely brilliant. And to be honest, I'm delighted we've had this chat and got someone from the Run Club, and I resonate with pretty much everything you said. I've just sat back and absolutely admired it because I'm like, yep, I've been there. Yep, I felt like that. Yep, it's just ticked a lot of boxes. It's amazing to hear how far you come, but just that stubborn, stay going attitude, and it's for no one else. And it's for no one else but yourself. And it's amazing to hear. But I think what people, I suppose, in our Run Club as well kind of notice, they don't want to post their time because Reuben is running at this pace and Eric is running at this pace and Sean's doing intervals and Rachel Farrell is doing this, and they're embarrassed about it. But like it's all just for yourself. And when you get involved in stuff like this, the important thing is that it's time happens. Like it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. It's just staying going and keeping going the distance, like you did in the run. Like you're probably killing yourself for running at a 5-6 minute pace going, this is so slow for me, but you just had to keep going, and for you just to finish. And it's an important thing for anyone who is listening and wants to get involved. Time is just something that happens, but as long as you can just stay going and cross that finish line, that's the biggest personal achievement, and everyone is going to be proud of you. Time is absolutely irrelevant. Yeah.
And like I suppose when I crossed the finish line, the big thing for me was it personified the achievement of 12 months of hard work, and it was me looking back on where I'd come from. You know, like as I said at the start, you can look up what other people do and you can kind of get caught up into that, but really what really resonated for me was, geez, a year ago I was here on the finish line hungover, and here I am having achieved the race. Like, so it was really a personal journey that just was absolutely fantastic. And yeah, you can look at the time, and I got my little kind of bits of motivation from, you know, someone saying this, that, or the other. And to be honest, there was actually plenty of people that did the time I did in the bike and then absolutely ran off in the end and did a much better time than me. But it was what I achieved in that, and my personal journey through that time was really what I look back on, as opposed to I came whatever place in the race or how many people beat my time or whatever it is. Because I absolutely agree with you. Like you can look at what other people do and you can kind of go, oh geez, that's a bit my time versus that. But like equally, there's Olympians out there, and you know we can all be ashamed of our times versus them. But that's not what it's about. It's about your own achievement and your own personal growth. And equally so, I think it's fair to say that that's never linear. You know, in that previous 12 months, I've glossed over all the mistakes I made. You know, running too much, running too fast every run. You know, getting injured and not knowing when to listen to my body and take a day off, and that all happens and it's all natural. But each week, if you measured the pace of my runs, you know, you wouldn't be able to tell much, because one week they're slower than the next, and it doesn't make sense because maybe I should be fitter from running for a longer period of time, but it just doesn't. Sadly, life and running doesn't work as straightforward as that.
Yeah, it's always the finished product and the road to the glasses come back on, and people forget the days you just don't want to put your runners on. You've had a tough week, or you can't get out, and one missed day turns into 2, turns into 3. Then you decide, well, so the week is gone, and might as well go on the beer with it. You know, like there's all those kind of the snowball avalanche effect, I call it. You know, like it starts with as a snowball and turns into a boulder from the end of it, and those weeks happen. They happened to me a couple of weeks ago as well, and I just there was 3 or 4 days just didn't get out for a run. I was absolutely wrecked. So. I'm probably like that, overtraining, being too focused on the podcast and getting out and all that. I'm not actually saying, look, I need it there too often. But it is amazing. And like you said, the journey is brilliant. And the byproduct of all of these journeys is we get fitter, we get healthier. You meet like-minded people. Like, this is our first time technically meeting face-to-face.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely brilliant. We're after being able to talk for 45 minutes about something we all really enjoy and gotten into. And it hasn't been offered. It hasn't been anything. It's just enjoyable to share the stories and hopefully inspire a couple of other people as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I couldn't agree with that more. It's great to see so many people in the group just, you know, getting out, and for the first couple of Ks, you know, for the first run here, there, or anywhere. And even some of the people in the group have been put up pictures of their local area, and like, I'm seeing that as motivating. I'm like, Jesus, they've lovely localities. I wish I could have a bit of that, and a bit of nature for myself to look at while I'm going running over the mountains.
I'm running around laps of an airfield, and it's the most boring thing in the world.
Yeah, but someone else seeing helicopter doors flying down and dodging them going for a run might be a bit exciting, Eric. Yeah, I think I take 2 main things from this podcast. One of them is I will never ever go to Roundwood, because only bad things happen to Roundwood. You've totally ruined tourism for Roundwood. But the second, well, apart from the community, and always, I think you need that bunch around you to keep pushing yourself. A lot of your story is just the mental aspect of just getting through it. And I think, you know, a lot of it is, you know, getting the right runners and running and all that sort of thing, but it's just the mental aspect of just going out there on days you don't want to run, and setting targets for yourself. And sometimes you have to come up with reasons to set targets. Like, you're like you said, the 3 hours to get under the 3 hours doing the cycle, and come up with these different things, keep pushing yourself on days you don't want to go out of. So I have to ask in the end, do you have any future targets now you've set yourself up for the Half Ironman? What's next for you?
Yeah, so like I've done the Dublin Marathon. I went back and righted the wrong of the Dublin Marathon anyway. That was first and foremost. After absolutely hating it the first time around in 2012, I said I can't let this stand, and went and did it last year, and just loved every minute of it because I went into it prepared. And that was another big learning for me. Looking forward, I've loads of ideas of things I want to do. I'm almost nervous to say what they are, because I'm going to put them on record.
On the spot.
One of the things I realised a couple of months ago was I did the Dublin 2012 marathon when I was 20, and I'm coming up on 30 in the next year or two. I won't say exactly when, but I said it would be kind of a nice way to just round it out in terms of the next decade if I went for an Ironman. There's a couple of people have said, oh, would you not just do it anyway? And I'm not necessarily in a rush to just get it done like I did the 2012 marathon, and then kind of just scare myself so much by it and not enjoy the day that I never do one again. I'm really enjoying running and triathlon, and I don't want to kind of rush to just do something to say I've done it. I want to actually enjoy the experience and enjoy it today. So that's definitely something I probably think it might be on the horizon. As mentioned at the start, the Art O'Neill looks like an incredible race, something I'd love to do, and maybe that's the first step into doing an ultra or something like that. I've plenty of friends who've done them, and they've all said to me that I'd really enjoy it. And I still just get very nervous about the prospect of it. And, you know, running over the mountains on the weekend was a big step forward for me in doing that, because, you know, you typically have a lot more climbing in those types of races, and it's about being able to go beyond that distance. So, you know, finishing Saturday morning, kind of going, Jesus, I could probably do a couple more kilometers if I needed to. Maybe not a couple more miles, but a couple more kilometers. It's a good step forward in that regard. So the Irish Needle is definitely something I'd like to do if I get lucky enough to get picked out of the lottery. And then there's a couple of cool adventure races that I really like the sound of. I know, Eric, you've done Quest. That's one that I'd love to do, but there's one I'm not sure if it's going anymore or not, but it's called the Coast to Coast, which is basically, this to me just screams everything that I love about these types of races. It's a self-supported race from the west to the east of Ireland. You just go across the country. I think there's a bit of kayaking involved, there's cycling, and then there's running. And I just really enjoy the concept of going from point A to B under your own steam. To me, it's a real sense of achievement, which is why I really like it, you know, as opposed to looped races, just, you know, A to B races. To me, just there's something kind of nice about looking back at where you've come from and going, I did that and there was no one else. So I'm not sure if it's still going. It definitely was up until 2018, and I think I might have missed the boat on it. But if it ever comes back around, it'll be the top of my list to get done.
Oh, worst case, Reuben, next year when things are a bit better and into the new year, if it's not running, I'll go coast to coast with you.
There you go.
You're making a lot of promises in these podcasts, Eric.
Listen, I love a challenge. As long as he doesn't feel bad about me slowing him down now, but I'll do it.
Didn't you make a promise to Rachel Farrell a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, I have a half Ironman to do. I'm now going coast to coast with Reuben. I'm doing an ultra marathon with Ozzy Doyle.
Poor Tom's left out.
Tom, now he's only average. Poor fella. But yeah,
I think it's the right way to approach it, though, because like in these times, like I definitely struggled with everything being cancelled, you know, and like I was really focused on working towards things, and it's taken a while for me to kind of shift away from that and kind of go, no, I'll create my own challenges to keep things interesting. So like, you know, Saturday was part of that, and you know, starting to think now, we might be going down the country and doing a holiday in Ireland this year as opposed to going abroad because of the way things are. And I'm like, maybe I could cycle to that, and just creating little things like that, you know, it kind of satisfied that need to be a bit competitive or have that experience. And to be fair, I think no one would disagree with the fact that Ireland's a beautiful place and you can really get out and enjoy it. It's all on your doorstep. All you have to do is get out there and lace up the boots.
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely amazing for. And as well, yeah, if the next year comes up and we get a bit more freedom, definitely I'll be up for a couple of these challenges, which and hopefully others in the group will too. And that's
it'd be great to meet up.
Bringing it together. Reuben, I think we're going to have to draw it in there because if you talk anymore, I'm going to feel worse.
I was hoping you'd wrap it up there before I convince myself to say, you know, I'll do coast to coast with the two of you. I'm not too sure I'm there yet.
I'm going to tell you wouldn't be able and then see what happens.
Right, I'm in. That's it. I'm done. It's on record. Reuben, thanks a million for joining us in this podcast. I like Eric said, I literally just sat back and took it all in, and it's great hearing different people from the running group just have their experiences as well. Because one of the things, like you said earlier, that resonated with me was kind of like, you know, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And I feel like now with the running group, I'm definitely not the fittest person in the room. So I'm seeing the likes of yourself doing all these other extra things. And I'm like, the possibilities of what you can do now is there at the doorstep. Like we didn't even touch on how fast you did your 5K and that kind of thing. When I'm like, geez, how do I get to 21 minutes? How do I get to 20? And you blast out 17:20. I'm like, actually, it's not about 20 and 21. It's like, you can aim higher and higher. And like, even if I never get near 17, the fact that you're aiming for that, you'll probably get a lot closer to it than if the aiming point's that little bit lower. So thank you for that. Thanks for always your input into the group each and every week. It's definitely inspiring other people to post their comments in each week. And those that are listening, you know yourself that the people are listening are commenting each and every week in the group. you're helping a lot of other people, ourselves included. Like, I have to go out now and do a run because you two did a long run this weekend. I've only done 3.5K, 4K in a fucking interval. So I have to go out and run after this thing's all edited and done up for that. So thank you for that.
I'll take today off if that's all right.
Yeah, I think you've earned it, man. I think you've earned it. Anything else?
Off, but all right.
Anything else you'd like to add or say, Reuben, before you wrap up the podcast?
Yeah, the last thing I was going to mention was just like as people are going about their runs, like I think we are all going to have, dark spots or times when you're just kind of a bit frustrated with your progress or, struggling with that particular run. And I think it's all relative. We've all had those moments. And one of the things that, from the people I follow and people I'm aspiring to, I've learned most from them is kind of embracing that moment as a challenge and kind of realizing when you're feeling a bit shit or, you're kind of a bit stuck in that moment or whatever it might be in terms of struggling to push on, realizing that that's a challenge and just trying your best and coming away from it going that's a learning moment and maybe it'll be better next time and you maybe not, is something that I've started to try and embrace a bit more, and has been a big thing for me because I find too easy to kind of just get frustrated in the moment and go, Jesus, I could have done better, whereas if you just embrace the struggle that it is and maybe try to enjoy it a little bit and kind of looking forward to those moments to learn a bit more about yourself, I think you'll actually take that and go even further as a result of it.
Unbelievable.
Is that a better way to finish the podcast myself? It's been absolutely brilliant, Reuben. Thank you so much for sharing, inspiring, and we look forward to next week in the group to see more of your runs. And for anyone else who's getting on, we will have Danny back next Thursday at 8:30 for the yoga as well, which is going to prove vital, hopefully, for the likes of ourselves. Maybe Reuben's been doing some yoga as well. But it's been absolutely brilliant. It's fantastic. The group's been moving along. We hope to see more people sharing and liking. And I don't think of a better way to finish myself. Sean, can you think of anything better?
No, I'm good. Just thanks once again, Reuben.
Brilliant, lads.
That's
great. Thanks,
thanks very much, and we'll
see
you next week.
Yeah, and looking forward to coast to coast next year, Eric.
No problem.
You're in.
Second run.
All right, cheers.